Hello, everyone, and welcome to Let's Talk About Jesus, episode number 3. Now, before we start and before I introduce my guest for the evening, I want to tell you guys a little bit about some changes that Let's Talk About Jesus will be seeing. So, the first thing that we're going to be doing is we are going to be doing it in more of a talk show setting. Of course, right now, that's not possible in person. However, we are going to do the best we can with what we do have. With that being said, Let's Talk About Jesus is an episodic series, and it is designed specifically to expose people to the gospel. We will give scheduling preference to a guest who has an opposing view. However, if you want to be a guest and you are a Christian, please go ahead and let me know, and we will find a time to schedule you to be on the show. As I said, though, we will give preference to people who are not Christian because ultimately the goal is to expose the gospel to those kinds of viewpoints. So, for example, I'm currently in talks with a Satanist to be on the show. I've been in talks with a Wiccan. You get the idea. We want to give the gospel to as many people as we can in hopes to inspire and in hopes to hopefully achieve salvation. Now, we know, of course, and we recognize that we cannot save anyone. It is the work of the Holy Ghost that can save people. With that being said, I will be creating a website for the show and a Facebook page. So, as soon as I do, I will put both in the description of this video and all future videos. And that will have a contact form. That way you can either submit yourself to be considered to be a guest, or you can submit someone else with their permission, of course. With that being said, this is the third episode, of course. We are doing this as a reshoot. We will go ahead and keep the other one up. However, this will be the official third episode. My guest for this episode is going to be the same guest for the original episode 3, and that is my mother, Carol Hedrick. And I'm really excited for this talk because I know that she has some interesting views. And of course, as always, I want to remind everyone that the nature of this show is that things could go into a debate. Now, tonight, I don't think that'll happen because both sides are Christian. However, bearing all that in mind, I do ask that if you comment on this video and a debate occurs within the comments, be respectful to each other, be kind, be courteous, um, and just carry basic etiquette. In some of my other videos, I've seen that some people have not necessarily done so. So I want to encourage that. With that being said, I would like to welcome my mother, Carol Hedrick, onto the show. All right, on screen now, I have, as I said, my mother, Carol Hedrick. Now, she has founded her own ministry. It is called Ashes to Beauty. You can find it on Facebook, and of course, I will link that in the description. She has a very, very powerful story, and we will get into some of that here in a little bit. But the topics that we are going to cover in today's episode uh, will be mental health and spiritual attack slash spiritual warfare, and how those two can actually kind of mingle a little bit. So, with that being said, if you could give just a little introduction about yourself.
Well, I think that, most people that will view this know us, but I, uh, I, I don't know exactly what all you want me to say. I guess,
Whatever you're led to say.
um, almost 2 weeks ago now, I had my ninth heart attack. Really, it's my 10th. I tend to forget my first heart attack that was back in 2005, but it's my ninth heart attack since 2016. And I had to have another stent placed. But the thing that is remarkable to me is that through everything that I go through, I come through with the knowledge that, um, that Satan once again had to go to God and say, let me put this on her one more time, and I guarantee she ain't gonna serve you anymore. Just like he had to do with Job, and he does that. He has to do that with all of us, and because he cannot do anything that God does not say. He doesn't do it to be mean to us, that, but rather that, that is a trying of our faith, if that makes sense, to go through things. If we went through life in just a, garden of roses, we wouldn't learn anything. And, but I know that God has kept me um, through all of this, and, other health issues that I'm facing right now. And so there's a calm that comes over me, because I know that if God didn't love me, I wouldn't be here still. If He didn't have purpose for me, I would not be here still, because any one of these heart attacks could have taken me out. But I'm still here.
Yeah, and you referenced exactly what I was going to, the book of Job. Now, of course, Satan was looking through all the land, and he couldn't find anyone else. And so God actually said, "Have you considered my servant Job?"
Mm-hmm.
God offered Job to Satan because he knew, because God already knew that Satan would throw everything he had at
Mm-hmm.
Job. And at the end of the day, Job did not lose his faith. Now, I'm sure that there's times whenever he probably questioned why God was allowing
Mm-hmm.
it to happen. But whenever you look, it shows us the perseverance, and it shows us the characteristic. And at the end of the day, we can
Mm-hmm.
reflect on that.
Well,
And in any situation, we can say, you know, do I have that faith? Do I have the faith that if something was to happen that was even half as bad as what happened to Job, would I still keep
mm-hmm.
my faith?
Well, and the other part to that though is that God set a limit on Satan. He couldn't just, I mean, he did all of these things. He took his lands, his wealth, his family, but God said, you can do what you need to do, but you cannot take his life. I will
Mm-hmm.
not allow you to take his wife. So in that, God set a, the boundary in which Satan could work. He couldn't just, do, he had to work within that boundary, if that makes sense.
Right. And so you kind of see there um, that God has dominion over every aspect of the world. Now, of course, the Bible does refer to Satan as the God of the world, under case G, for those of you who are curious about that. Um, but Satan still has to go to God. And I think that that's very critical.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Um, so, whenever we're going through things, in your case, that would be heart attacks. By the way, our running joke is that I like to tell her that if she's going for a world record, choose a different one, please. So, um, I know that we are going to talk about the mental health aspect of what you've been going through. We could even touch a little bit about what I've been going through, but ultimately this episode is about you. Um, well, it's
No.
about Jesus
Yeah.
from your perspective. So my first question for you is, how exactly has having all these heart attacks so close together, I mean, in the span of 6 years, how has that affected your mental health?
Well, um, it has. It's kind of hard to explain. Whenever I had my open heart surgery, you know, they tell you what your body's going to go through, and they tell you that you will go through depression, and you don't understand unless you've been through heart surgery, open heart surgery. um, your body goes through a complete change, and it's been challenging. um, I have always faced things with trying to be positive, um, trying to get up on my feet. And Paul can tell you this. I think sometimes I try to be hero too much and it goes against me. But the how it has hurt at times with the depression, because I mean your whole body is has just been through so much, and that's kind of the way it responds. So in some ways it hurt, especially going through it, but in some ways it also helped. Ouch. I've got a pup on my ankle.
Okay, so follow up question about that specifically. What has been what's been your source of solace in these times? Where I can speak from my own experience. How there's times it just seems like God is anywhere but by your
Hmm.
side, and I'm not going to put words in your mouth and say that that's how you feel right now in this moment. But what is your solace whenever you're going through times
Hmm.
like that? Um, what do you do, and what could you tell the viewers to
Hmm.
do whenever they have that moment? Bearing in mind, of course, that the majority of the viewers probably are not
Hmm.
Christian.
Well, it has been my faith. And I mean, I'm not a rock, certainly. I'm human. And I have human emotions. And, as much as I love God and as much as I try to put my faith in Him, there are those times that I feel like I am totally alone. It's like, God, where are you in all of this? I don't understand these things because, like I said, my heart isn't the only thing that I'm going through right now. I'm still dealing with the cervical stuff. We've had to push that back, a procedure that I need to have because of my heart. Um, and, so in the back of my mind, I wonder, what's going to happen through all of that. But and I think that sometimes just going through that, um, then I began to realize what that what that is, and sometimes it feels like almost like the spiritual attack, like Satan is trying to destroy my faith in God through the depression and through that feeling of loneliness. But God has promised me that He is walking beside me the whole time. And if he loves me enough to know my name, and if I am that personal to him, then I have no reason to believe that he's not there. And sometimes he allows us to kind of swim, if you will, so we can just draw a little bit closer, nudge in a little bit more. Um, there are times, I'm sorry if I cry, it with this heart attack, it seems like I cry at the drop of a hat, but it's all normal, so don't think I'm just a big crybaby. But there are times that, God will allow me to visualize, if you will, um, nudging into him, sitting on his lap, and having his arms just envelope me and tell me it's okay. I am here. I'm sorry. Um, and that is what sustains me. That is what gets me through. And two, you have to have the knowledge of what it is that you're dealing with, because if you don't, then, you know, then I don't know how you deal. But, sometimes God does let us just, kind of, like I said, swim. And that might not make any sense, because as a Christian, you would think that that wouldn't happen. But, you know, He allows us our temper tantrums. He allows us, to be angry at Him, just like Paul gets angry at me sometimes. And we are very close, but he gets angry at me. And sometimes, not very often, but it's like that with God. I mean, he allows us that opportunity, if you will, to be angry and to question why. Those are all perfectly normal, natural responses to what you're going through. But it's at the end of the day what you truly believe in. And I choose to believe in God. Did that make any sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that that's a good analogy too about like the quarrel between, child and parent. Of course, God is our spiritual father. And, you know, I find oftentimes that there can be that conflict. God, why are you letting me go through this? God, why are you letting me go through that? I can't help but feel like God looks at us sometimes and is like, come on, just hold on a little
Mm-hmm.
bit longer. You're going to see that you felt like you were swimming in the depths, but you were actually at the top of the water.
Mm-hmm.
If you would have looked down, you would have been afraid, even more
Mm-hmm.
so. If you would have looked down, you would have lost your faith.
Yeah. It's kind of like,
God protects us far more than we will
mhm.
ever know.
Well, we put him in a box. We tend to put him in a box, and, just we don't think that he can do it, but God can do anything. And, um, just as I don't give Paul everything that he's ever wanted, when he was growing up. As a matter of fact, he told me many times that no should not even be in the English language. And, but, that's the way it is. And, um, so I can't, my mind just kind of left where I was going with that. But I think you get the idea.
Yeah. Just a heads up, we may be getting some viewer
Okay.
questions. Um, it's not set in stone, but it is possible. So, kind of going off of that, um, we have a question that I'll get to here in a minute. But going going off of um, considering, like I said earlier, that part of the audience is not Christian, what can you say to them to um, to ensure them that faith in God is the answer? Because of course, you and I agree that faith in God is the answer. We both have the evidence that we need to conclude that God is real, that God
Mm-hmm.
is loving and holy and just and righteous. Of course, some of my viewers will disagree. And if they do, that's okay. I pray that they will still watch the future episodes and, Lord willing, that they may get saved. But what word can you offer them to encourage them that faith in God is the answer?
Mm. Well, first off, I would say to them, number one, it's not a coincidence that you would be listening to this at this point in time. Um, because even though your belief may not be in God, you must be curious or you wouldn't listen into this. But I would encourage you to think of all the things that you have gone through in your life that have been detrimental, whether it be health, whether it be finance, whether it be the death of a loved one, whatever in life that has been detrimental to you. I want you to think about how you coped with that. Did you turn to drugs to help you? Did you turn to alcohol to help you? Did you turn to, you know, any myriad of things to help get you through that? And then I want to encourage you to think, but did it bring you lasting peace? And my guess is probably not, because those are not things that are going, they might, you might feel like they get you through the moment, but then the next moment comes. And then what? But with God, He gives you something that is eternal. He gives you something that is a peace that passes all understanding. I can give you time after time after time in my life where I've had that peace that it can't be explained any other way before. And Paul can testify to this. Before, whenever I knew that I had to have the open heart surgery, um, fear swept over Paul because he was looking at the possibility of losing the only parent that he has. You know, granted, he does have a dad, but his dad is in and out of his life, and he's not really a vital part of his life. He's not a supportive part of Paul's life. So Paul's looking at the possibility of losing me. But God swept over me, and I had a peace that I was not anxious. I was not scared. I kept telling Paul, and I don't know if he'll remember this, but I kept telling Paul, I wish you could feel what I'm feeling. Because if you could, you would be okay. You wouldn't be nervous. You wouldn't be scared because you would know that God had it. I knew that I was going to come through that, and I did. It wasn't the, initially it was a very easy recovery, but then, depression set in and things set in. But it is that peace that passes all understanding that will get you through each moment. When I lost my baby girl, I could not go through a day without thinking about her every minute of every day. But as time went on and God began to heal, um, I never questioned him on why he took my baby. I never felt angry with him, but every day I got a little bit better, but it was because God was giving me the peace and the strength that I needed to get through each and every day. So, my encouragement to you would be, you know, you've tried all the other things, try God. What do you have to lose? You have nothing to lose by trying Him, but everything to gain. And it might surprise you at how you feel about life in general if you just let go and let God take control of your life. So I guess that would be my encouraging word. I could sit here and say, oh, get in the Bible, get in church, get in prayer. Those things are important. I'm not downplaying them at all. They are important, but that's not where they are. That's not where you are at this point in time because you don't have those things to fall back on yet. But just call out to God, ask him to prove. Ask him to show you. He will, because that's the kind of God he is. So, have to lose, but to try it. Try him. There are too many
Alrighty.
things in my life that have taken me out. I've had cancer scares. Most most of everything has been health issues, but there are too many things that could have taken me out that God has said no, and he has given me peace about it, and he has just washed over me with his love and his peace. And until you've experienced that, you don't know what that is.
All right, we are going to take a quick break here, and we will see you guys for what will be for us a couple minutes, but for you will probably be about 1 second. We'll be right back. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back, and we do have a viewer question, um, and we will always keep you anonymous unless you specify that you want your name to be mentioned. So this person asks, and then we'll get into the second topic of the episode. But this person asks, uh, why do you think most people are afraid to get counseling or outside help or go through deliverance ministry? We'll both answer that. I'll go ahead and give a quick answer. Um, so the
I,
unfortunate
however,
truth,
probably won't.
um,
Anyway, sorry.
the the unfortunate truth is that there are many ministries that do not acknowledge mental health as it should be acknowledged. My philosophy on it is that mental health needs to be very much so acknowledged within the church
Yes.
because there, if you look at the statistics of the congregation members who experience some kind of mental health crisis, you would be shocked at how many uh, people in churches actually do suffer from depression,
Hmm.
anxiety, suicidal thoughts, you name it. Every congregation has people. However, you'd be even more shocked to see the statistic for how many of those churches actually will acknowledge mental health. Now, granted, over the years, that has improved. There are some churches that previously took no stand on mental health and now do. However, you also see another trend of anti doctor and anti medicine preaching. Now, of course, God is the great physician. Um,
Hmm.
but the thing is, yes, God does heal us. I believe that very firmly. He's healed me of things. I've seen him heal other people of things. Uh, but God put doctors on earth.
Mhm.
One of the disciples was a physician. So God put these people on earth specifically to help others. Now, I know that right now the big debate is, is medicine biblical? And I will say that that's a fair debate for modern medicine because a lot of it has become either politicized or corporated. Um, we have things like big pharma right now that uh, exist solely to take advantage of people. But going back more on topic now, um, I believe that whenever you have either a person or a group of people within the church who suffer any form of mental illness, and then they hear, this anti-doctrine, anti-medicine preaching, um, they are going to automatically not want to seek out because their allegiance will be with the church, as it should be. If you are called to a church, that's where you should go, that's where you should be, and you should adhere to that. However, God did give us a brain as well, and it's an injustice to God to not use what he gave us.
Mhm.
So my view on it is that I understand that some churches have a strongly anti-medical view. I understand that. That's on them. It's how they choose to believe, and that's okay. I'm not going to fight them on it. I have no desire to. Um, but for those in the church who do suffer mental health, that they are made to feel ashamed if they are known to seek help outside of the church. I've seen that firsthand. I've seen people who were shamed because they wanted to seek help. Um, my encouragement to you, if that is you, is to do what you feel God is calling you to do. If you feel that you need that outside help, if you feel that you need that counseling, then do it. There are certain things that some pastors may not understand enough to actually help you
Mhm.
through. And that's not a slam on any pastor by any stretch of imagination. That's just our human limit. Um, there are some things that people have come to me about that I didn't know how to help them. For example, for whatever reason, a lot of people come to me who are struggling in their marriage. Now, of course, I will do my best to help them through that, but that's not something I can really understand because I've never been married. So it's stuff like that. Some pastors don't have a basic understanding of those things if they haven't gone through it themselves.
Mhm.
Um, so understanding that there is no shame in seeking that help from someone who does understand it. But of course, the first and foremost ingredient is always going to be God. You need to be in prayer. You need to be seeking God in that. Um, but understanding that um, there is absolutely no shame in trying to find a counselor. I think, speaking more on the deliverance ministry, I think that those are phenomenal. If there is one near you, then absolutely go through it. Because you always, if you're a Christian especially, you always want to try to go through a Christian counselor or anything like that. Because I I had a counselor who was not Christian before, and there were things that we didn't understand each other on, and so it's not that can create a clash necessarily, but there is that difference of view. And so what is significant to you could be insignificant to them.
Mhm.
So you always do want to find a Christian counselor
Mhm.
if possible.
Mhm.
And deliverance ministries are great for that. Um, with that being said, um, I gave a bit longer of an answer than I was originally going to. Um, but I hope that that helps you with your question. With that being said, I will turn it over to Mom to kind of give her answer.
Well, I agree with everything that you said. The thing that I would, and there is no shame. There's no shame in medicine. There is no shame in seeking that help. Um, the just like for my health reasons, um, if I did not have my heart medicine, um, if I didn't have the, you know, um, the insulin for my diabetes. Now, that is a situation that seems to be um, rectifying itself. I have a very good doctor who is working with me to get me off of my insulin. And, it could be my body just changing, but I could not live without those medicines, um, because my heart would fail. Um, my blood sugar would go out the wazoo, and that could take me out. But, I believe, and if I'm wrong, correct me. And after we do this, I will go in so that I'm not taking it out of context or, anything. But somewhere in the Bible, I do believe it says, um, physician, heal thyself. And I will have to look that up, because I don't want to, just say that that's what it says and, take it out of context. But I think that it does show that, you know, Luke, who wrote the Gospel of Luke, was a physician. I don't think that he was put in there by mistake, because God knew that this debate would probably come up, about medicine and doctors and everything. But the thing that I would caution about is not every Christian counselor is going to give you the answer that you need. Not every Christian counselor is going to counsel you in the way that you need, because they may not understand, kind of like what Paul was saying about, being a pastor. You can't pastor someone, or you can't counsel someone on something that you have no understanding about. So really pray and ask God to direct you to that person that you need. And there is no shame in it. And I know for my depression after my open heart, I had to go on Prozac. I wasn't on it for very long, but I had to, because my depression was so bad. Paul was with me at the doctor whenever he said it was the worst case he'd ever seen after open heart surgery. And I had to do something, or, you know, I wasn't going to make it. And that helped me through that difficult period of time. But there's no shame in it. And if, you need to reach out to someone, by all means do so.
Yeah, yeah, that's absolutely it right there.
Just be careful who you're reaching out to, because not everybody is versed on mental health.
Yeah, that's another big thing too. There are people who will claim, um, to have that ability, and
Oh,
I'm not
can
going
I
to
say
try to
one more
argue with
thing?
them, but that is just how it is.
Right. Can I say one more thing,
Yes, and then
please?
I'm going to do a screen share.
Okay. Um, One more thing that I have heard a lot is that being mentally ill is being demon possessed, that there is some possession that has taken place because of the mental, because you're mentally ill. I don't believe that. I do not believe that a demon has taken over your body and that that's why you're depressed and every. I believe that you know people take such a hard line on mental illness, and especially if they haven't experienced anything like that. I think that their response might be a little bit different if they had experienced a Great Depression. I think that their response might be a little bit different had they experienced the awful anxiety. I've seen people suffer with anxiety so terribly that they throw up, and they can't even hold a job down. So, I don't think that that's demon possession. I think that that's mental illness. Just saying.
Yeah, and I think that that is a common misconception. And I'll say this, and then I'll do the screen share to show the verse you were talking about, and then we'll go on to the final topic. But mental health is not demon possession. Now, it can be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's actually one of the things that I specialize in, I suppose you could say, is demonology. So I understand these things honestly, and not to brag on myself, because I'm not anything but a servant of God. But there's a lot of people who will say, oh, well, this is the absolute truth. And me being who I am, going through what I've gone through, believing what I used to believe, uh, I can verify that demon possession can present itself as mental
Mm-hmm.
health. However, that does not necessarily mean that if you have mental health issues that you are
Right.
possessed.
Right.
One of the common things, because one of the things I study is the extreme mental disorders, such as DID, which is the rarest mental condition out there, or at least one of them, uh, psychosis, etc. A lot of Christians will take the position that those types of mental conditions are demon possession. In some cases, it can be. However, uh, it is not always. And I think that that is a critical thing to understand. Um, and I've had debates with Christians
Mm-hmm.
about that. Um, I think that for me, as someone who actively studies demonology, which I will do another episode about that if anyone has the interest, um, I have a better understanding about that than some of the people that I've debated about it with. So please understand that whenever I say that, I'm not coming at it from some kind of biased opinion. I actually studied this stuff and I actively
Mm-hmm.
study it. Um, that being said, I'm going to do a screen share to read the verse that you referenced earlier. It says, can you see the screen? Showing. Um,
It okay.
okay, so it's actually Luke 4, verse 23, and it says, and he said unto them, Ye will surely say unto me this proverb, Physician, heal thyself. Whatsoever we have heard done in Capernaum, do also here in thy country. So that's the verse you were talking about.
Okay. Um.
It's definitely worth studying more, but we can always return to that in a future episode.
Yeah. And you said it was Luke.
It is Luke 4:23.
Go figure. It was Luke.
All right, so the final topic of the episode is, of course, spiritual warfare. And I'm going to kind of give my position and then I'll turn it over to you. So, spiritual warfare is a very real and active thing. Um, I think that every Christian faces it, and even some people who are not Christians face it. And you see, what I've found is that if God has called you, you're going to have spiritual attacks. I have them just about every day.
Yes.
Um, and if you're not a Christian yet, and you have those kind of odd things happening to you or around you, um, and you believe that it could be spiritual, chances are that it very well could be. And the reason for that, if you're not a Christian, is because God has a high calling for you. You see, Satan doesn't deploy his demons to attack people that are no threat.
Right.
If you are not a threat, then Satan has no use to fight you. Um, so, bearing that in mind, if you are, especially if you're called to preach, oh Lord have mercy, um, you will go through the ringer. Um, but the important thing to understand too is that whenever that happens, um, God will always see you through it. All you have to do is just keep your eyes on the cross.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I think a lot of people fail to see the reality of the protection of the cross. You see, if you are behind the cross, no evil can touch you. There is such a level of protection behind the cross that you can't even possibly imagine. So I'm going to use this analogy. You're in the middle of a war and you're behind a barricade. And you know that that barricade is going to protect you from the enemy. Imagine that that barricade is completely unpenetrable. Imagine that not even a bomb could break through it. That is the power of the cross.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you are within God's will and whenever you are standing behind that cross, there is nothing that can hurt you. You will see a lot of things and you will go through a lot of things, but Satan cannot put his hand on you. It's like the wings of protection
Mm-hmm.
analogy. If you are hidden within God's wing, Satan will be roaming around you. He'll know that you're there, he'll know that you're close, but he cannot see
Mm-hmm.
you, he cannot hear you, he cannot sense you other than he knows that you're close, but he cannot touch you, he cannot harm you.
Mm-hmm.
The Bible says that he roams about like a roaring lion seeking whom he may devour. The Bible also refers to him um, as a thief. Uh, I'm trying to think of the specific verse, uh, but it says that he has come to steal, kill, and
Mm-hmm.
destroy. That's the verse that I was trying to think of. Um, so, understanding that, it's important, especially if you're called, it's important to stand behind the cross. Put on the full armor of God. Because, see, the thing about being called, especially if you're called to preach, you are called to go into the battlefield. And as such, you need that. You need that protection. You need the sword of the Spirit. You need the helmet. You need the breastplate. You need the shield. Without those things, then you are not ready to go out into the field.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not me trying to be harsh or anything like that. That's just me telling you the
Mm-hmm.
reality. Um, I see a lot of people who they know that they're called and they know they're called to go out into the field. But the critical thing that we have to do is we have to be ready. We have to study the word. We have to be knowledgeable. We have to study to show ourselves approved. And a lot of people I've seen either haven't done that or have not made it a primary focus, which we always should do. Um, no soldier goes into war without knowledge of what he's going to do, what he's going to work with,
And
but he
without
doesn't go without a
preparation.
weapon. And our weapon is the Bible. Our Bible is our sword. Get familiar with your weapon and always stay prayed up. Every time I go to do something ministry wise, I pray. I pray, I pray, I pray. I read the Bible, and I prepare to go into in the war zone. With all that being said, I kind of went off topic a little bit, uh, but I'm going to turn it over to Mom.
Well, again, I agree with you 100%. Um, Spiritual warfare, I think that the biggest part, or one of the parts of spiritual warfare, is understanding that that's what it is, and understanding that that comes from, I don't want to insult anyone's intelligence because it's really elementary. It is the literal battle between good and evil. And while you were talking, the verse that says, a house divided against itself cannot stand. Satan will not. Um, Satan cannot fight, or come up against someone who doesn't believe in God, because there's nothing to fight. But but whenever he comes up against us, um it's because we have targets on our backs as Christians. um and you are so right. We have to put on the full armor every day, not just once in a while. We have to put it on daily. We have to arm ourselves with the word of God, because there are people out there who will who are ready to attack what you believe. And the Bible also says that you need to be ready in an instant to give an answer for why you believe that you believe the way you do. Why do you believe in God? Why do you, why do you, go through all this? Being a Christian is not easy. Um, and God didn't say it would be easy. But another thing, um, oh, I lost my thought. That happens when you get old. Um,
All right. Well, if you think about it, we can always come back to it at a later time. Um, but with all that being said, I would like to return to the subject of spiritual
mhm,
warfare, because it's one of those things that we only scratch the surface on. Um, in a future episode, I'd like to discuss the kinds of
mhm.
spiritual warfare.
Yes.
I'd like to discuss what we can do whenever we're in a physical spiritual attack, because that is something that happens. There are times whenever you will get physically attacked. Uh, I won't go into that anymore now, because if I do, then this will be another hour that we'll be talking. um, but so look out for an episode about that. And I may even film that independently later tonight. Um, but I want to thank you, Mom, for doing this episode, for telling your story about your mental health after having these heart attacks, and for giving your opinion about spiritual warfare, and um, answering the question as well. And I want to make known to the viewers that we are available to talk to you. I go through every comment that I get on my channel,
Mhm.
or I'm going to start posting these on my actual Facebook page, because I get more interaction there. Um, but I always do look at the comments. And so if you're curious about God, if you're curious about Christianity, or if you want an answer, why, just comment, and we are always available to talk about it.
Mhm.
Um, to close the episode, um, I want to just say again that I am building a website for the series, and I'm building a Facebook page. Um, the new Facebook update has prevented me from sending out like invites to everyone on my friends list, which is a massive disservice to everyone who has a page on Facebook. But nevertheless, be looking out for those pages. And I just want to say, to close the episode, as a Christian apologist, um, I can say why I believe in God. And why I believe in God is, aside from my personal experience and the personal testimony I can offer you, I can tell you that there is evidence out there for God. I have a video on my YouTube channel, Holy Ghost Adventures, where I discuss how the theory of evolution proves that God created the world. So do go and check that out. But with that being said, again, Mom, thank you for doing this episode. And everyone else, we love you. We're praying for you. And if you need any kind of spiritual advice, please let me know. Uh, we both make ourselves available to talk to anyone. And if you want to engage in a healthy debate, let me know. We can set that up too. With all that being said, we love you guys and God bless.